What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over some mobility work that I usually do before an upper body day, a lower body day. It's going to be a whole mix of things. And my recommendation for you, just to get started with this, is to really do mobility work every single day. If you want to become the best athlete possible, then you should really understand your personal range of motion in every single movement. And today we're going to go over a lot of stuff that's going to help you with exactly that. So before any leg day, what you want to think about is opening up your hips. So stretching up the hip flexors and really making sure you can get a really good range of motion here. Your deadlifts, your squats, your hip thrusts all depend on hip mobility. So anything that you can do to really either get into a squat position and sit deep into it. Think about closing this crease as much as possible, or even here as you see in this staggered stance. This is going to be one of the best movements you can do. A lot of the time people don't recommend static stretching before working out, and I understand that, but if you personally have mobility issues that very much limit you in specific movements, don't be afraid to do a little bit of static stretching before your workouts. And like I said, also doing these daily in the morning, at night, is going to help you a lot. So what we really want to do right here is have your knees at a 90-degree angle, 90-90 for the most part, right? You're going to sit into that movement here and really just push that pelvis back. You can also push this knee out a little bit, abduct this knee just a little bit to get a little deeper stretch. You should feel that in your hamstring here. You also might feel a little blockage right here as well. Again, keeping that whole foot flat on the ground, but abducting the knee is going to help you a lot with getting the full range of motion for this stretch. Every stretch, be very gentle about it. Don't try to force yourself into it, but hold it for about 30-60 seconds whenever it's comfortable, and then slowly come back out of it. Another thing you can do in this position, which is a completely different stretch for this back leg, same thing here, but you're going to tilt that pelvis forward, and you'll feel that all the way up here. You might feel that in the quad, you might feel that in your hip flexors. You can add a little bit of a lean forward to it right here, but what you don't want to do is just dive in here. This is also another acceptable stretch, but if you really want to keep that tension, instead of releasing the pelvis and basically being able to just dive in here, we're going to tuck under and keep a straight body, just slightly lean. Force that tuck under, and you'll feel that a lot more right here than if you're just kind of dropping into it like that. So another really great move to do is Pigeon Pose. This one's super, super common, but I do see a lot of people doing it wrong, or really just kind of chilling here in it, right? Just sitting down on their butt, not really making it an active stretch. Again, to make things an active stretch, we want to think about where we're feeling that stretch. And so when you're in Pigeon Pose and you're in a very active pigeon pose, right? So if I come straight on here, you don't see me plopping down to the side. You see me holding myself very upright, a very active pose. You're going to feel that stretch all here in the back of the leg. You might feel it up here in the side of the glute, and then you also might feel it right here in the front of the leg as well. This is one of those poses, again, that you don't want to just shove yourself into or flop over it. Try to stay as active and calm. Think gracefulness as you mobilize. That way you're not bouncing around or forcing yourself into positions that are painful. That can cause a muscle tear, right? So hips are very delicate, and we want to just sit here and breathe nice and deep and slow to allow that stretch to happen, both here in the front of the leg, like I said, and right here. Over time, you might be able to scoot this leg even farther back, and eventually you might even find the mobility that your butt cheek really does touch the ground here. It's going to come with time. Like I said, the longer you can hold these poses, the better, but don't force yourself into strenuous positions. I like to rotate from side to side, so I'll do one side for 60 seconds, maybe a little more, and then I'll switch to the other side, do the same thing. Nice deep breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then go back and forth each side for 60 seconds again. Okay, so here's another one. This one can be a little bit awkward to do in a public gym. People get a little bit uncomfortable about it, so if you'd rather do this at home, definitely recommend doing so. One of the best things you can do in this position is just make sure that your feet aren't all the way in here or like flaring out super far, this is a very stressful position on your hips. So try to align your knees with your ankles and then keep your foot in the shape of an L. If that's still a little uncomfortable, you can bring your heels in a little bit more closer together. But as you move through this movement, you're really going to feel, again, your hips opening up here just a little bit. When I say move, what I recommend doing is sitting back into the movement just a little bit and then rocking forward. You can also do this on your elbows very comfortably. Rock forward. And another thing you can do here is add in a cat-cow. So round the back up, and then also come down here, look up straight, round the back up, arch it down. Another really great thing for your not just your hips but your spine as well is that lumbar flexion and extension. So flexing the spine, extending the spine, that's going to really help just warm up your entire back. And if you think about it, everything we do in the gym really involves our spine. So we want to strengthen the bigger muscles around it, but also the little muscles around it. So any of these mobility movements that you actually feel that you can add in a little bit of lumbar flexion and extension, it's a great thing to do. And also a little bit of thoracic rotation. Again, a fantastic thing to do when you're warming up for an upper body day, a lower body day. Your thoracic spine is supposed to be very mobile. The top part of your spine right here is supposed to be very mobile, whereas your lumbar spine is supposed to serve more as a stabilizer, be a little bit more stable. What happens with a lot of people is that they get a lot, really tight up here, really tight in the cervical spine and the thoracic spine from working all day. We sit in an office all day and we're just like locked and loaded up here. And so to compensate, because that's so locked up, we start trying to move our lumbar spine. We get a lot of lower back pain because it's not meant for movement. It's not meant for mobility. Even though we want to be mobile, it's meant for stability. So we want to unlock the top part of our spine and really work to mobilize there more than anything to create that natural movement pattern and allow that lumbar spine then again to be a stabilizer. So on the topic of thoracic mobility, a very common stretch known as the perfect stretch. In this position, reaching up, again, rotating. One of the best ones that you can do pretty much every single day before any workout that you do. Couple key points here in this movement, and this is a great stretch to do after really doing that first stretch that I talked about here, being in that 90-90, because you're going to be able to open up your hips a little bit more, sink a little bit deeper. You want to stay stable here, right? So you can drop down to your knee if you need to in order to help kind of like with stabilization if you don't have the balance yet. But one thing that we don't want happening in this movement as you stretch is this knee flopping all over the place, this elbow bending down, right? You're not trying to bend here. You're trying to keep this glute back here nice and active, okay? You're gonna feel that stretch right here. You're gonna feel it in this hip, and really take your time, keeping your arms straight, reaching up, and allowing your gaze to go up as well. Coming forward here, elbow to the hand. Here's where you can have a little bit of a bend in the elbow to kind of fully get that elbow to your hand. This is allowing you that full range of motion through that thoracic stretch or that thoracic mobilizer. So we're thinking about the top part of the spine kind of twisting like that. And if you think of all of the little muscles in the spine through this movement here, and then again as it twists, I bring my elbow to my hand, they're doing the work too. It's not just the big guys. So really important stabilization here. Again, like I said, you can drop down to that back knee, allow yourself to sink in really deep here. Again, you can abduct that knee a little bit just to get a little bit more depth. Keep those arms straight, hand and foot parallel to each other. Nice and slow. I like this one. This feels good. Okay, so last thing we're gonna do. This isn't necessarily a mobility movement or a stretch. This is more so to help you with your hip extension pattern. So if you're trying to get big glutes, try this and really get yourself to connect with your glute and your hamstring instead of your hip flexors, instead of your core through this movement. So you're gonna wanna do this, you can do this bilaterally or unilaterally, one leg at a time or both legs. You're gonna bring one knee up towards your chest. Notice how the active leg is mostly at a 90-degree angle. Try to get it as close to 90 as you can. You wanna have your big toe, your pinky toe, the ball of your foot, and your heel all pressed into the wall, okay? So don't let any of those pieces of your foot come off the wall at any point. You're going to bring the opposite arm up. And yes, this does matter. I mean, if you're more comfortable here, you can, but we are going to be breathing. So this kind of helps with the coordination of the entire movement. Bring this arm up, and you're going to try to mentally connect to this point right here. Right here, the glute and the ham tie in to bring your pelvis up. Okay, just that little movement. As you do this, you're going to have a very nice and sharp exhale as I showed you. So I'll show you with the other side as well what that looks like. Before you squeeze where that glute ham tie-in is, you're going to take a big breath in. And as you exhale, try to bring this knee closer to you and squeeze right here to lift your pelvis up off the ground, not using your abs, not using your hip flexors. You'll feel that in your glute. Your glute will start to work a little bit, and that is how you help cue a proper hip extension pattern, and also make sure your whole foot is on the wall the entire time. Try it out. Let me know how that feels before your next leg day, every single day. I don't know, before your next upper body day. It might help you out. You never know. Glutes are the center of the body. The more open your hips are, the stronger your glutes are, the healthier your body is.